When he finally said, yes, Tyron, I'm going to do it, and the contracts are coming in, what were you thinking? Like, what was your first thoughts?
My first thought, and still kind of to this moment, it feels a little bit more real now because, a poster out, we did face off, and Showtime bringing us out, you know. But before then, it was just like, I was like, man, this not gonna really happen. It was like one of those things that, like, I'm scared to even post a lot of the training video. I'm like cutting some of the stuff that makes me look like a savage out because I don't want them to get freaked out and like, no, all my leg hurt. And that's why I said we need the anti-bitch clause because when he sees, like, people don't really understand how long I've been boxing and how many world champion boxers I've sparred
Yeah, I
and
know.
how many years and different trainers, and just the way that I fight is really revolved and based around boxing. Everything I do is around boxing. So I know when he sees that, maybe it'll make him train harder. Maybe he'll want to, really, really test levels. So look at his brother. His brother went out there and he really, really, really wanted to go out there and say, you know what, I gave him my all against Floyd Mayweather, and nobody can say he didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, he definitely went the distance, and he has fight experience. I wouldn't say, I mean, I know he's got the knockouts, but I wouldn't say Jake Paul has that fight experience yet. He doesn't really know how good of a fighter he is. Like as you can probably relate to this, we find out how good of fighters we are when we fight. We find out how good
Yeah.
our chin is. We find out how good our conditioning is. We find out how good our strength is, our wrestling, our striking.
Yeah.
We don't know this shit in the beginning. Like, I'm just as
You're right.
surprised I got a strong chin as anyone else, or a weak chin, or a good takedown, or a good takedown
Yeah.
defense. So you learn that as you go. He hasn't had time to learn all these different things, and he's going to have to find out a lot in this fight. Logan, on the other hand, who I think is not as good of a boxer and fighter as Jake Paul, but he did go out there and fight Floyd Mayweather, and he got experience. He went out there and he had to suck it up, and he was tired, and he had to clinch, and he had to
Yeah.
punch. So he's got experience now. Now he knows what it's like to be tired and be a fighter and dig deep and have to be a. So that's one thing about Jake Paul that he doesn't have yet, and I think he's underestimating what that's going to be like when he gets out there. But man, I'm stoked because I know you've been boxing for a long time. You come to AK Thailand, man, and like you hit the pads and it's crazy. Like we have people that don't even know it's you that are there and they see from behind, and there's like crowds of people around you by the time your session's over, and they don't even realize it's you, 5-time UFC champion Tyron Woodley. They're just knowing that someone's out there crashing these pads looking like a savage. And this was like recent. I mean, it's not like you're old, man. This wasn't 10 years ago. Like this was like a year and a half, 2 years ago, whatever. It's like
Yeah.
you're savage,
I got to get
bro.
back out there, man. It's been a while. Well, I appreciate that, man. I got to get back out there, and it's just like for me is I just really trained with some of the best guys. Believe it or not, I actually started my first boxing ever anything was in Houston, and I trained with Eve Edwards and Lewis, right? And I was like, I don't know how to box. I remember.
Yep. So did I. That's how I started. Eve Edwards and Lynn. We all and the guy named Jace, and we all started together at Tim Musels and Bushi Ban and all that stuff, and we all came up together. And then eventually, obviously, you met those guys as well, and then we met at AKA. Like we go back and forth, me and you, through our whole careers. It's pretty funny how that worked out.
That's crazy. That was my first time somebody teaching me how to punch. It was Eve and what's his name was Lewis. I was like really just, we was kind of doing our own thing a little bit. So
Yeah.
we was kind of giving ourselves what we saw on TV, and it wasn't a lot on TV.
Yeah.
It wasn't nothing to really base it off of. So that's what I was doing. And then the first time I formally had a boxing guy, I was like, all right, let me show you how to box. Was in Houston, and I was sweating. It was crazy. E was freaking just crazy striker at the time, and I was a wrestler, so I was trying to help him. He had fought like Jeremy Stevenson and a couple guys that beat him, and he needed help with wrestling. So Lynn found me on MySpace.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember
Sent me a
this.
message on
I
MySpace.
remember
He
this.
searched all the internet and found a brochure that says Nation's Best. Buddy of mine, Chris Whalen, had a camp called Nation's Best. It didn't mean like everybody agreed that was just a slogan. But in Lynn's mind, this is the best camp. And it actually wasn't that. It was a small camp. So he found the small baby camp in Missouri called Nation Best. And the only thing that made him call me is that I had 1 or 2 amateur fights. So he Googled it, saw that I was a wrestler All-American, and I was coaching, which means I'm willing to coach somebody. He asked me what I trained Eve Edwards. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck Eve Edwards is, or MMA. I didn't even really know MMA that well. I said, but I'll fucking do it, shit. So I started this as a wrestling coach. So if
Yeah.
I started something as a wrestling coach, and it was, I was doing this so much, and I got in such good shape, I'm like, fuck it, let me give it a try. And if I win 5 world titles that way, and boxing is a sport that I've always wanted to do, the only sport I've never done in my life. Like when I start posting these pictures, you'll see the difference in my look me smiling and having fun, and me dancing, the music. It's fun, man, and I can honestly feel like I do deserve a training camp like this. So I train really hard, but it's about wrestling and grappling and this and blocking this and the elbow coming underneath and you get on the back and you take your back and this is where you get out, but you're fucking tired or you got hit with a punch and you loopy and let's do it 17 4 rows. You motherfuckers simulate that bullshit.
Yeah.
The fucking air down bike.
Yeah.
Go as crazy as you can for the chance that you may feel somewhere. We never probably gonna feel like that in a fight.
Yeah.
But we train ourselves because we're crazy in the head. We train ourselves to be able to punch and stuff when we're tired and hope that if we get there in the fight, we won't be scared. He ain't did that.